Welcome, and I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency news. Bitcoin veteran Bobby Lee predicts $1 million Bitcoin. Now, stop and imagine that for a minute. $1 million Bitcoin. If you invested in Bitcoin today, it's running right around $9,000. And whether you invest $5, $100, $1,000, or even if you buy a whole Bitcoin right at $9,000, you can invest any dollar amount into Bitcoin because a single Bitcoin can be divided into 10 million pieces. You can buy 1/10,000,000th of a single Bitcoin, and that is a very small fraction of a penny. Anyway, here's the interesting thing. Regardless what dollar amount you purchased, what if you bought Bitcoin today and held it, and then in, say, 10 years or some period of time, Bitcoin actually does become valued at $1 million? How would that affect your life? What would that do for you? That would be pretty spectacular. So let me get into this. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion. I am not smarter than you. You are smarter than you realize. Do not trust what I say. Do your own research. So Bitcoin's price is very likely to hit $1 million according to crypto veteran Bobby Lee. So who is Bobby Lee, and why does he think Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million? Both of those are really good questions. Crypto baron John McAfee is not a lone member in the $1 million Bitcoin price prediction club. Bitcoin veteran Bobby Lee, who's known as the creator of the very first Chinese crypto exchange, BTCC, also believes that the top coin has a good chance to end up in the 7-digit territory, but it is very unlikely to happen as early as in 2020. Gold, and this is a quote from Bobby Lee, gold is about $8 trillion today in terms of total market cap, which is 50 times the worth of Bitcoin. I predict the flippening will happen within 9 years and Bitcoin will shoot up past USD $500,000. And with all of the money printing that is happening globally, Bitcoin will actually very likely be over $1 million. And I thought that was a very interesting point. The first thing is he's taking a look at gold, and what is the total amount of gold in the world today? Well, it's $8 trillion. I almost said the wrong number. It's $8 trillion. There's $8 trillion in gold worldwide. And that's 50 times greater than the current price of Bitcoin. And he fully expects to see Bitcoin exceed a price of $500,000 within the next 9 years. And with all of the money printing that's happening globally, because we all know that the United States just recently talked about how it's printing a whole bunch of new money, and a lot of other governments have been printing an excess amount of new money into their into their economies, that is devaluing not only the US dollar but other dollars. And so really what he's kind of saying is that one of the things that's going to help Bitcoin get to $500,000 is that the value of all of these other currencies will continue to go down. And as they go down, the dollar will be worth less, but Bitcoin will be worth more. Another point that he makes here is that Bitcoin is more scarce than gold. According to Lee, Bitcoin has designed to be super valuable. The coin's yearly inflation is expected to decrease to just 0.5% in its 20th year of existence, which would make BTC more scarce than gold. Bitcoin was designed to be super valuable over time. First 10 years, there were only 2 block reward halvenings, but the next 10 years, there will be 3. That's 50% more. By the 20th year, daily new output will be just 255 Bitcoin, yearly inflation of less than 0.5%, more scarce than gold. So what he's specifically referring to is there's something called a halvening. And the halvening happens about every 4 years. So what happens is is people, if you're familiar with Bitcoin, you may have heard the term Bitcoin miners or Bitcoin mining. And the way a miner gets paid is he creates a new. So what happens is there's all these different transactions that need to hit the Bitcoin ledger. And those transactions need to be secured, and it needs to be done in a way that somebody can't overspend on their account. In other words, they spend more than they actually own, or in a way so that people can't actually steal funds from other people's Bitcoins. And so this is all done through what's called creating blocks. And blocks are cryptographic algorithms that make sure that provide the security and the protection of the entire Bitcoin ledger. And what has to happen is there's a very, very complex mathematical formula that different computers are guessing at, and when they get it right, they're rewarded with a certain amount of Bitcoin. Now, every 4 years, that amount of Bitcoin is cut in half. And so right now, whenever somebody creates a new Bitcoin block, and a block is a Bitcoin block, that's why they call it blockchain. But think of a Bitcoin block as just a database ledger that has a number of different records. And so sometimes those records might be 5 records, or it might be 500 records, but each one of those records is a different Bitcoin transaction. And a new block is created approximately every 10 minutes. And so what happens is when the blocks are being created faster than once every 10 minutes, then the Bitcoin software automatically increases the difficulty so that it slows down to 1 every 10 minutes. And if it's taking too long, then the software automatically adjusts the difficulty so that it's easier to solve these problems. And so it tries its best to manage it so that a new block is created every 10 minutes. When a new block is created, the computer or the system, because sometimes they're done with a group of computers, but whoever it was that solved that particular problem to create that new block is rewarded with a certain amount of new Bitcoin. Now, right now, that reward is 12.5 Bitcoin per block. What'll happen in May of 2020 is a halvening. And so on May of 2020, that reward will go from 12.5 down to 6.25. So the reward gets cut in half. And the people that are mining Bitcoin get half as much every time they create a new block on the blockchain. And the miners get rewarded with Bitcoin because what they're doing provides the security and the stability of the Bitcoin network so that people can't cause fraud or steal other people's Bitcoin out of the network. And so with those halvenings happening now, in the last 10 years, there's only been 2 of those halvenings because they happen every 4 years. And so on year 10, there would only 2 of them have happened. But between now and the next 10 years, there will actually be 3 Bitcoin halvenings because those 3 will fall into that 10-year period. And each one of those halvenings has had a has always caused the price of Bitcoin to shoot up because people realized that, hey, this is becoming more and more precious. There's less and less brand new Bitcoin being created. So unlike gold, there's thousands of gold mines all over the world, and people know kind of how much gold is going to get produced every year. And the amount of new gold that's found, or the new gold that's produced through gold mining, is pretty stable. I mean, it doesn't get cut in half every 4 years. They have a pretty good idea of how much gold was found this year, and a similar amount is most likely to be found next year. And so gold, in terms of its scarcity, doesn't change a whole lot. But Bitcoin, because less and less new Bitcoin will be created, becomes more and more scarce because there's the supply of new Bitcoin is going to go down significantly over time. And so right now it's 12.5. then it'll be 6.25, and then it'll be 3.125, and then it'll be even less than that. And so approximately every 4 years, it will get cut in half. And eventually there'll be no more Bitcoin because the maximum amount will be 21 million Bitcoins. Now that'll take us into 2140. So we're a long ways off from running out of that new supply of Bitcoin. But at that time, the network is designed so that the network fees should be what pays the miners for continuing to keep the network secure. Right now, the fees are extremely low, and over time, the fees will increase as the amount of Bitcoin mined becomes less and less. Then the fees for transacting and trading Bitcoin across the network from address A to address B is going to increase, so that the miners will eventually get paid strictly off of the transaction fees rather than get paid for new Bitcoin with new Bitcoin that they just created by creating a new block. So I hope all that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please let me know by asking me questions. You can make questions down in the comments below. I also have created a special Google form if you want to ask questions privately without putting them in the comments. But all of that is on our YouTube channel on the page below. Also, if you disagree with anything I said, maybe you disagree that Bitcoin would never hit $1 million. Hey, that's perfectly fine. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear why you think that. Why do you feel that Bitcoin would never become $1 million? Add that to the comments below, or if you'd rather keep the conversation private, please use the Google form. I've put a link to it in the description for this YouTube video. In the meantime, I hope that you'll like, subscribe, and hodl. Have a fantastic day.